When people are concerned about the afterlife, when they try to believe in it, it's really because they are frightened of, they fear death. And that is quite an important thought, of course. I suppose some of us might be more inclined to fear life. I believe Sophocles said in one of his plays, "The happiest are those never to have been born." How true, some of us may say, when we're suffering or in great anguishing. But more seriously, or at least more generally, most people do enjoy, to some extent at least, being alive, or they think they can enjoy being alive when things go a bit better. And they fear death. They fear the end of life. Well, there's a famous argument by Epicurus, which is based on the aphorism, "When death is there, we are not. When we are there, death is not." Namely, the basic idea is, of course, that once we are dead, without an afterlife, then we do not exist. So nothing bad can happen to us, in the sense that we can experience no harms, we can experience no suffering. Of course, we can experience no pleasures either, but as we no longer exist, we have nothing at that point to fear. Indeed, Lucretius draws attention to how the fact that most people don't regret not having been born for many centuries earlier, so we don't worry about or get upset about our non-existence before birth. So, says Lucretius, why should we be upset about, fearful of, a non-existence after our death? I would in fact add a caveat though, because I always can see the gloomy side of things. I still think even though after death it's non-existence, you can still actually be harmed, because it's possible to have non-experiential harms. We only have to reflect on that a little bit to see how true that probably is, because we do recognize that things may happen to us which we have no experience of. You may, for example, be laughed at behind your back. That, in a sense, is harming you. You may be being betrayed by a partner. That, in a sense, is harming you, even though you never find out about them. And Sartre would speak in terms of you are prey to the other, you are prey to the living when you are dead. In other words, people can try to ruin your reputation. Obviously, that does not directly harm you. You don't experience your reputation being tarnished, but nonetheless, we may recognize that what we value, what constitutes ourselves, goes beyond our experiences, but also into our interests, into our reputation, into our projects. Nonetheless, of course, we do grieve over someone's death, and we do worry about dying and so on. And that is understandable, because death does bring about a deprivation. We are deprived, of course, of more life. Indeed, we know very well, do we not, that some people do die too early through painful accidents and so forth. They may die young, so undoubtedly people can die too soon. What we sometimes tend to forget is that also people may live on for too long. As we know, we often have relatives who are suffering a lot, and they do just realize that the time has come for them to die and be dead. And that may be very, very tragic, because they are deprived of future life. But of course, in some cases, one may have a feeling that one has actually had a fill of life, and there's nothing more to be said or done. At some point, one would get bored with an immortal life. Even more so, dare I say, if the immortal life was a disembodied existence. But even if you could make sense of an immortal life here on earth, wouldn't it at some stage be incredibly tedious to be going through the same rituals again and again? That doesn't mean that living for about 80 years is the ideal length of life. It may be we'd enjoy living for 500 years. Nonetheless, I think the idea of an immortal life just wouldn't appeal to most people. Yes, it's fair enough to say that perhaps we'd like to carry on living for longer, but nonetheless, it doesn't mean we'd want to live on forever. Forever is a long, long time, you know.